One in Three is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi, warriors. Welcome to One in Three. I'm your host, Ingrid. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm joined by fellow survivor Tiffiny Newton for a casual conversation on red flags and the realities of domestic violence. As we are about to head into Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I really want you to listen for any insights or parallels you may connect with your own experiences. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and join Tiffiny and I in this conversation. Hi, Tiffiny. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
So am I. Before we get into our just general conversation, could you give a background just so listeners can get to know you a little bit?
Sure. The main reason we are talking is because of the domestic violence background that I have in my abusive situation. After escaping, I was too full of shame and guilt to really talk about it. So I stayed very internalized, which is not healthy, by the way, very internalized and slowly reaching out to people who got isolated, who I got isolated from. And as I started sharing my story, other people started sharing their stories. And little do you know that most people you come into contact with have had some type of abuse, whether it is verbal, coercive control, gaslighting, whatever the level, all the way up to physical in the hospital type scenarios. So in going through that, I started a nonprofit. I would love to do a shelter, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So I started with self-defense, teaching women and bringing in certified instructors to specific workshops that we set up and teaching them self-defense tactics and, questions from law enforcement, questions from mental health counselors to really find all the answers in one place, rather than having to search on the internet or search on your phone because I was being tracked on both of those devices. And then from there, I wrote a book. And the book isn't necessarily geared towards victims who are currently in the situation. And here's why, is you probably aren't allowed to buy a book like this. If it arrived on your doorstep and your abuser saw it, he would toss it out. So the book is actually geared towards family and friends of loved ones who are in situations. So it's more of a guide on how to approach people and have that discussion and keep yourself as the safe person to talk to so you don't get isolated from the victim. And then my story is actually woven in as examples. So the book is not about me. It is about helping someone and then giving real life examples.
Okay, I think there are so many similarities between you and I. So I also internalized everything. And, I'm a healthcare professional, so I know I have some of the training to recognize domestic violence. There's so many people I could have reached out to. I have amazing family, amazing friends, but I kept it all internalized. And then when I got out, I did the same thing. I started talking with some friends, and it was not to use the hashtag, but it was like, oh, me too, and me too, and me too. And I have a very close-knit group of 4 women that I'm friends with locally that all 4 of us have been in some sort of an abusive relationship. So it is incredible to hear all the commonalities among people that and it's they have no idea about you, that you have no idea about them. Everybody thought we each had these amazing lives.
Yeah. Unless you end up in the hospital because of it, most people don't know the other stuff that is considered abuse. Because we all are taught abuse is the physical side, right? And that's the first thing of, if you say you were abused, oh, where did you get hit? That's the first thing most people go to, but that isn't the most common.
Right. And that's the easily provable point too, is all that stuff that happens behind the closed doors where you're reluctant to say anything because how do you even prove that's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's awful.
Florida is a two consent state for recording.
Ah,
So it's
yeah.
not like you can even record them and then bring that to court. Um,
Right.
I mean, that is a friend of mine actually was in that specific scenario. Like they had the attorneys that she's like, this is what I have, and it is on record. And they do have, thankfully, one witness that watched it happen. So it isn't just the video because he didn't consent to getting videotaped. They do have backup uh, eyewitness. But yeah, I mean, how do you go against something like that if it's not seen? It's hard to
Right.
prove that it's not he said, she said, or it
Right.
does become he said, she said.
Well, and then even if you say that whatever situation escalates enough to call the police and but there's no physical outward appearances, by the time the police show up, you have an abuser who a lot of times has some sort of a personality disorder where they can turn it off and turn into this most charming individual because they have zero accountability. And then you have a victim who's just been abused and freaking out and they look like they're potentially the crazy one. And then it's, this, oh, I say this happened to me and it was awful. It was awful. And then you have the abuser like, I don't know what he or she are talking about. Yeah, they're crazy. Like, look, this is what
Yeah.
I have to deal with on the daily.
And it's and such a stark example like that. Um, if you watch the Gabby Petito story on Netflix, prime example, Brian
Mm-hmm.
Landry is sitting back there shooting the crap with the cops, and she's like losing it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, it's my fault. Like, I don't know, I probably did. Like, until that gets recognized, that behavior difference, um, it's always going to be a problem to recognize in those scenarios when a cop shows up. The calm one is probably the abuser.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, and that's the exact example that I thought of. When I saw that, it took me. I can remember there was one particular time where I got to that point where, and my abuser wasn't even physically present, and I was being confronted with, it was a work related thing, not a current position that I have, but it was like, you are going to have to do this or you're going to have to do this. And meanwhile, I'm thinking of my abuser who's going to flip out about this. And I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea what this is going to do to me. And I'm looking completely nuts because this is so out of context. And I'm sure they were like, holy shit, we need to let this girl go. She's a
Yeah.
loose cannon.
Yeah.
But it was just that like accumulation of everything just flooding out.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, the abuser will make you late for work. You'll get passed up for promotions because of it, or you can't take certain positions because of a time difference. Like maybe you have to go in an hour earlier or stay an hour later. Um, that becomes a major conflict, and that prevents you from moving up at work, getting
Mm-hmm.
promotions. It impacts your ability to fend for yourself in the grand scheme of things. It's so sad.
Oh, definitely. Do you want to speak a little bit about your personal experience?
Sure. I mean, I one of the biggest things that I'm such an advocate for is recognizing red flags. Because that's the gateway. And if you ignore those first red flags, you're already in the bucket of trauma bonding. Because they know they're red flags. They're enjoying you ignoring the red flags, and they're already sucking you in. So my biggest thing is I met my abuser at a dog park. So the fact that he loved animals, that he was into fitness, like he ate healthy, like I was like, "Oh my goodness, where have you been?" Like, this is amazing. We have such and such in common. Now, I'm a firm believer you don't need to have everything in common. That becomes boring. You need your time apart. You need your own hobbies. Um, but I had been so different with people that I had dated that it was nice and comforting to find the commonalities, right? Even if it was just a few. But with him, because of mirroring, it became quite a lot, right? Um, and so I ignored many of the red flags in the beginning, the future faking, the love bombing, that, let's go down to Miami for the weekend. Literally, we started dating like the month before. Let's go to Miami for the weekend. Here's a bracelet, help me pick out tile for the new place because you'll be spending a bunch of time there. Like, all of these things, like painting the pretty picture of our future and making you feel like it is love, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all fake. It is like the green screen of relationships.
I love that. I've never heard that before, but
You
that's
can
so
remove the
right.
background very easily. Like, it's a mask, it's fake. And they're just standing in front of it or behind it, like the mask that they're wearing, but they are okay with lying to you and coercing you into believing their way. They'll eat healthier for a while with you. They will go to the gym, but they'll give you guilt about going to the gym or what you're wearing to the gym. Like, the little, let's go do this, but knock you down a peg. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those little tiny things, and then the rules become more intense and the consequences become more intense. Like, it just becomes this snowball effect or avalanche effect by the end of it, of if you're not doing this, some severe stuff is going to happen. Like, the threats are, even if the actual threat isn't coming out of their mouth, their body language is absolutely telling you the threat, backing you into corners, raising their voice, ripping stuff out of your hand while you're at work, throwing your stuff and breaking your stuff at home that means a lot to you, getting rid of things, giving stuff to Goodwill that you've had for probably 20 plus years and that means everything to you, all gone. Um, those are the things that anything that meant anything. Planting evidence also. They will plant evidence. And grill you on it until you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Until you just succumb and comply with whatever reality that they have painted for you. And that was psychological torture, is basically, I had to sleep with the lights on. And when I would go to turn them off, he'd come right back out and be like, you're a guest here. You're going to sleep how I tell you to sleep.
Oh
Like,
my God.
crazy. And by the time you wake up in the morning, you're like, that was just a bad dream. No way would anyone treat. And you just kind of compartmentalize it. You put it behind because you wake up in the morning and he is acting like nothing ever happened. Like, everything was lovey-dovey. Good morning, honey. I love you, whatever. Let's go to the gym. Like, all of a sudden you're like, am I losing my mind? Was that like a nightmare that I had? What's going on? Like, that state of confusion alone is a red flag. If you ever feel that, it's time to escape.
Oh, definitely. And sleep deprivation is one of the means that they use to help control, because when you're not getting enough sleep, it is difficult to understand what is reality, what is not reality. And just to be put on that constant edge of confusion you're just at this heightened, you're always in that fight or flight. Your adrenaline is always up.
Yeah.
And it's the good times eventually for me ended up being worse than the bad times, because the good times, it was what's going to happen. I remember telling him at one point, I wish you were just an asshole all the time.
Yeah.
So I knew what to expect every day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
such an uncomfortable
it's a
feeling.
constant state of anxiousness, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
the feeling where your cortisol levels are crazy high because you're bracing for what's next. Like, that you're going up the roller coaster, but with a roller coaster, the dip is at the end. You just don't know in the relationship when it's going to happen.
Right, exactly. And so another thing that you brought up is a lot of times people don't understand that physical abuse doesn't have to be a punch or a broken bone or anything. Posturing, just even standing next to you to make you feel like you're intimidated, is physical abuse. And throwing things for sure is physical abuse.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm 5'4", 125 pounds. He was 6'2", 250, double my size. But he would back me into a corner, back me against the fridge, back me up against a wall, and scream in my face, like this close to my face.
Well, and then they do things like that to push you into like a reactive abuse. So then you have no choice but to lash out or defend yourself. And I mean, it happened to me a few times where I started yelling, and it was almost like an out of body experience where I'm watching it happen and I'm like, what are you doing? This isn't you. But it was just, I couldn't control it. And then they stand back and look at you and say, not even think, they say it out loud like, oh my God, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, it didn't come to this, but some people have been videotaped, you know?
Right
No.
here. Right here.
Yeah.
It was at the very end. Actually, was it? Yeah, this was the very last time that I actually moved out. I was naked except for underwear, and he had just come back from a trip, and he said, why are you using LinkedIn to date people? I'm like, I'm not using LinkedIn for anything other than it's a resume site for me. Like, that's connections with, past people you've worked with or networked with within that business. And he's like, that's a lie. And he pulls up this guy who asked me out on a date 7 years ago, before I even met him, like 7 years ago. And I'm like, that was a bazillion years ago. You can see I shut it down. You can see my response. But he was using it to date. He would meet someone on Match, follow him on LinkedIn, and send them messages on LinkedIn. So I found that out and I confronted him about it. Even though it was before, we met, whatever, but that's what he was coming at me for. So he then goes in and starts deleting them to then make, me pointing out proof. It's not there anymore because he's deleting it. So now I am crazy, right? So I lose my shit, and I just was like, wah! Like that feeling, like that. I felt like a little Japanese anime character, like,
That's the best visual. I love it.
And I went, whoa, like that, and like flung my arms out to the side. Well, this side hit a glass picture that was hanging on the wall. That was not my intent. I had blood like dripping off my hand. He starts laughing and picks up his phone and starts videotaping me. I'm naked. I have blood dripping from my hand.
Oh my God.
But he thought it was funny because of I'm crazy. It like literally it is. He started installing with the first condo that we lived in. He put a one camera, and it was basically at the front bar. So you could see who came in to the front door, and you could see like who was in the hallway in the living room. Like it was kind of like angled where you could kind of see the whole room. And then he left on a trip, and all of a sudden there was a nanny cam in the bedroom. And I didn't find out about it until the box literally fell from the shelf. It was an alarm clock nanny cam.
Oh my God.
And so as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I have to protect myself. So I got a USB listening device. It looked like a thumb drive, and the audio would kick on when someone started speaking. So that's how I found out he cheated on me.
Oh my God.
After he kicked me out of the condo the first time. And then I got it was a power bank that you can get. And the power bank had a little pinhole camera.
Oh.
So I got that as well because miraculously, when I would leave for work, the cameras weren't working.
Oh my God.
And then we moved to the next condo, and he installed a camera in the bedroom, the front door, like there were like 4 cameras. And he would, when he was out of town, he would watch me sleep. I could see the red light come on. And
And
if the cameras were off when he was out of town, it was like, fix the cameras or you can move your shit out right now. I'll call the cops and have them move you out of the place.
Well, and there's no reason to have indoor cameras except for, I mean, if you have pets or something that you need to keep an eye on, or if you have children and you're concerned about,
Like
you
at
know,
the doors, point them at the doors.
yeah, there's no
right?
reason to have it in your bedroom.
Right. So I had to learn where those cameras were because that's how I ended up sneaking my stuff out prior to actually moving out because I had to put together a plan, right? I left 4 times before the final 5th time. And so I started saying I was giving stuff to Goodwill. And so I would roll stuff out into my car and drop it off at the storage unit.
Wow. So what happened, because, the statistics are on average, it's 7 times to leave before they officially leave. And I just want to point out that if you're on time number 9, that doesn't mean that you're hopeless and you've already extended your chances.
You just need the right safety plan to get out.
Right. So what happened the first few times when you left?
The first time I left was, we had a really dumb fight. That's when he took my keys and kicked me out, and I left the first listening device behind just because of some weird things that happened prior. And that's a whole other part of the story. But I left, and he called me when I got to the hotel, and he was like, are you sure you don't want to come here and give me a blowjob? I mean, that would just fix everything, it would put us in a better place, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm tired. I've been crying. I'm not coming there tonight. And that's when he had someone come over. He was just confirming that I wasn't going to come over. But I didn't know that until I got the USB and I went to work and I listened to what went on that night. And then I confronted him about it. And he was like, we were broken up. That had nothing to do with you. We were broken up. And he's like, and how did you record this? I'm like, my iPad. He's like, get the iPad out of here before I break it. Which I lied, right? Like, I lied for my own safety on that one.
Right.
Because I had the recording on my phone. He pushed me down, threw me down, and ripped the phone out of my hand and broke my phone.
Oh my God.
So I had to get a new phone. So that was the first time. And why I went back after that, I don't know. Maybe it is his charm and we weren't together. You can't technically say that I cheated on you, blah, blah, blah. Another time, it's all been around fights. We would have a fight and I would say, I'm done. I need to leave this. This is very dangerous. One of the times I left during a hurricane, because it was like, I just couldn't take it anymore. But he was just like, we belong together. If it's just the 2 of us against the world, like, why do you have to put so much other shit in front of us? If you were to just put us first, that you would be fine. Like, this would all, and like, again, the future faking, the love bombing, the flowers arrive, we're going to go to Paris for Christmas, like all of this stuff. It just became a drug. It was a drug of chaos. Like, they loop you into that. But once you see the light at the end of the tunnel, that plan, the safety plan, right? Like, I was exiting things out little by little. He knew I had the storage unit because some of his stuff was in there and some of his mom's stuff was in there, but he didn't realize I was shipping stuff to Amazon boxes, like those Amazon lockers outside of like Lowe's and Target and 7-Elevens and whatever. I was shipping stuff there and taking those boxes and dropping them at the storage unit. So everything was on my way to and from work. So if it was a stop, it was like 2 seconds. It never added 10 additional minutes because he was tracking my time as well. So once I had that plan in place, all I was waiting for is what is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back? What is that one thing that he's going to say that is the line in the sand? Like, what does he have to do? And I was working from home on a Saturday. I had 1 hour left of work. I was on the phone with a client. I was working for a medical facility at the time. So no one could see my computer because it's all HIPAA compliant. You know, you have to protect all of the health information. And he comes in and he drops his drawers and sticks his dick in my face. And he's like, give me a blowjob. I'm like, I'm working. Like, I have another hour. You can wait. And he's like, why can't you satisfy me? I deserve blah, 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 blah. Like, he's like, I'm just going to go find someone who is going to give me the sex I deserve. And I'm like, oh, yeah, go call your girl who you had, you know, whatever. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. Like that, it was so disrespectful. Not that the other things weren't disrespectful, but at that time, I drew the line in the sand. Like one more time of this blatant disrespect. Like the little comments weren't enough to be like, okay, that's it. It was like, this was physical assaulting me with his dick in my face, like telling me, threatening me that he's going to go somewhere else, like just this stuff. And I was like, I'm done. And that's when I shut my computer and I got in trouble with work because I logged off an hour early. And I almost lost my job, but that was it. That was my line in the sand. That was the disrespect that I said, I'm done. I can't handle this anymore.
Well, and I think there's so many of us that have that final moment, and it doesn't necessarily come out of the blue. It's like what you were mentioning. It's already in your mind. You're already thinking, I can't do this anymore. And for me, I knew, I said, I know there's going to be something that happens that's going to be the last.
Yeah,
I know I need
it's
to
already a cycle. So it's deciding and telling yourself and making a promise to yourself. What is that? What is the last thing that I'm going to deal with?
Mm-hmm. And you may have no idea. And it might be something that's happened before, but for whatever reason, that time, you're like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
But going back, I mean, they are master manipulators and they are fantastic about turning the situation around. So if they say something disrespectful to you and you go up to them and you're like, the other day you called me this, like, that's not okay. Well, then they're so good about like, you have no idea what was going on with me in that day. You never asked me how my day was. And I was having a really rough day. You didn't seem to care. And then you're coming at me with all of this extra stuff. And I'm already stressed out and I'm just trying to make a great life for us. And then you're throwing this additional stress on me. And then you're like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I had no idea. And you're apologizing for something that you never did wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying like calling me a bitch is not okay. Yeah. And I mean, but they're so good at it. They're so good at twisting that narrative to make you think, oh, I'm so sorry. And then, you think back at the beginning, the love bombing, and like it's like a heroin. I've never done heroin, so I really don't know if it's truly like this, but it's like that heroin high that you got a taste of and you're just trying to get back to it.
Yeah.
And it's addictive.
And
that's the trauma bond.
In writing the book, I went back through, cause while I was discovering some things through when the light first came on in my mind, I started paying closer attention. And I started in a different email that he didn't know about. I'd never accessed on my phone, so it was never connected to anything that he ever saw. I did it at work. I would forward things to myself and then delete the forwarding, so it only lived there, and I would delete the delete kind of situation. Right. And I found myself reviewing all of this content as I'm writing the book. And I told him for Christmas, I didn't want any presents. I just wanted us to be happy like we were in the beginning. Like I was begging for things to get back to normal, like paragraph upon paragraph upon paragraph of, I wish this. It was like I was trying to woo him versus him apologizing for anything. He never apologized for anything until it was all done and final. And it was, this didn't matter to me. I'm so sorry. I'll go get help. Like, of course it mattered. You monitored everything. It absolutely was an issue. And the reality side of things is, even if you discover something, they'll tell you that wasn't me. Even if you
Oh,
have
right.
hard evidence, it was not me. That is not me. I'm like, that's your email.
Mm-hmm.
Who else had access to your email? No one. Well, then that's you. No, it wasn't me.
Right. And they have no problem denying something that you can prove.
Yeah.
And then if on a chance that they admit that they did something, it was because you made them. They had no choice. Of course I did that. Look what you did to me first.
Yeah.
And then it's that living like that when you finally get out and you're trying to heal yourself, how you question your reality even then. I mean, it's been a really long time since I've been out of my relationship, and I will sit and think back on things and think, did that really happen? Did I maybe exaggerate what happened in my head?
Yeah.
And it's wild.
It is wild because our memory plays tricks on us, right? Like we were so in the fog, I guess, or in the tornado of that relationship, that all you can do now is trust your body. Your body is reacting and will probably react for many, many, many years. I mean, it'll be 7 years in October that since I escaped, and I still wake up with night terrors like he's sitting on my chest. Like your body, as you heal, there will be something else that uncovers or gets triggered, another memory of, oh my God, I did go through that, but I blocked it. Like I never wanted to think of that again, but that happened. And all of a sudden you'll break out in tears for no reason. Well, absolutely for a reason, but for you in that moment, it's like, why am I in tears? And then you realize, because that did happen, because I did go through this.
Well, and what sucks is you can have other non-traumatizing memories that have happened that you can't remember because it happened during that time where you were being abused, and your brain more or less was like, we need to close off this time. You're in, fight or flight, and you're just trying to survive. And so there can be chunks of your memory where you're like, I cannot remember any of that. And you can have like so many people in your life saying, no, this happened. I mean, my mom and I were just having a conversation. We were trying to talk. She was telling me about a party that we had had years and years and years ago. And I'm like, I don't remember that.
You're like, was it
What are
fun?
you
Did I have a good
talking
time?
about? Yes. And she's like, this person was there and this person was there. And I'm like, are you sure? And I'm like, that is really not like me to not remember things. I have a great memory. And I mean, even going to bed last night, it bothered me. I laid there in bed and I just thought, how could I forget this? It makes absolutely no sense, but it does. It does make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your brain is trying to protect you.
It's, and you end up hearing, especially as you start like coming out of your own shell. And I'm sure you experience this too, because it sounds like we were both kind of in this similar like shame and guilt kind of introvert, trying to deal with it ourselves. But as you start talking about it and other people tell you their stories, but you don't necessarily see yourself in the story that they're telling. Like, as an example, I was on a Zoom call with someone and they were telling a story about their relationship and sexual assault in their relationship. And I understood what they were going through. But then that night I had a dream that I was being raped by my boyfriend because it happened.
Oh my gosh.
but I had blocked it because you think that just because you're sharing the same bed, that that's okay. Yes, let's have sex, whatever, just to comply. Well, complying is not yes. Complying is a coerced
Yep.
yes. And that's not the same. And it took me a long time to admit sexual assault happens in like 95% of abuse cases. It's rape. And it's not okay. They will make you think it's okay because they reward you for having sex because they're nice to you when they're done. If you're not in the mood, that's a no. Take care of yourself. Like if I didn't do what he wanted, he would violently masturbate next to me. Where it shook the whole bed, where it was like guilt trip central. Like it became unbearable. It was unbearable.
So I want to go back and talk about your book again and a little bit more, because one thing that is so important to specifically a victim of domestic violence when they're still in it and maybe not recognizing yet that it's abusive, or maybe understanding it is abusive but still thinking there's some way to fix it, or not, lost, not sure what to do. One of the key things that sort of paves the path of a victim in actually getting out is encounters that they have with other people. And are they going to be believed? Are they going to be supported? And having a book that's directed to those people is so incredibly important.
Yeah. It is it's a scary cover.
Ooh, okay.
So this is what you feel like behind your own mask, right? So you may be wearing a smile, but you're screaming inside. So that's kind of like the depiction of that. But I even put a checklist in the back. So if you don't believe you're in a situation, if you're checking yes on any of these, you're in a situation.
Yeah.
The power and control wheel is in here. Any domestic violence or domestic abuse center has the power and control wheel, and they have it for multiple, like military, LGBTQ, like they've got them for every known cultural, segment, because they are slightly different for each, like teen abuse versus adult abuse. But the believing factor is probably the hardest, because the abuser a lot of times is very nice to your family, very nice on the surface to any friend that they let you still have. They're amazing to their own friends, right? They're charismatic. They are more than likely have some type of narcissistic, one of the 9 different, tendencies that all ball up into like a chaotic nightmare. But understanding how to listen to someone and not have them feel dumb or believed, I guess. I spoke to this young man, he's in his 30s, and his girlfriend was absolutely abusive to him. They have a child together. Anytime he got a job, she would show up and get him fired. She would cause chaos and get him fired because she wanted him where she could have eyes on him. She had a camera at the house, kept him like as contained as possible. And he's like, I don't feel like my mom believed me. And I'm like, your mom absolutely believed you because she called me to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I met her through a whole other avenue. But we just started talking, and I was like, yeah, I have a nonprofit on the side, and I help people understand what red flags are. And if they're in bad situations, be able to connect them to local resources and educate them on what they're currently dealing with. I'm not a therapist. I absolutely am an advocate because I'm also a survivor. and have seen it for myself, right? And so she was like, well, I want you to talk to my son. And I'm like, if his phone's being monitored, I do not want him calling me directly, because that's stranger danger. If his girlfriend is abusing him and she sees a girl's number on your phone that she doesn't recognize, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. I mean, the girl picked up a knife and tried to stab him at one point. So that tells you like the escalation of everything. But knowing how to set the stage, the terms to utilize, like don't say you need to leave. Because what if the victim goes back, well, my mom or my sister or my coworker says that I need to leave. I'm in an abusive relationship. Well, guess who's getting isolated next?
Right.
You've already put that person at the top of the list. Like using that language, you are putting that person in more isolation. So saying things like, how do you feel when he's not around? How do you feel when you have to make a decision and they say that you need their approval to make, how do you feel even in making decisions? Like there's a whole plethora of questions that you can go through just to see their anxiety level. If they're anxious when that other person isn't around because they built that such tight dependency on them, they're not supposed to be able to survive without that abuser, right? Like that is the mindset that the abuser puts into their head. So if they're anxious about any decision that is a normal decision when the abuser's not there, then that's a red flag. I mean, it may be bordering on neon. I mean, there's a difference of a healthy relationship asking for, hey, this is a big purchase, let's talk about it. Is it good for us to make this purchase? Or if it's something small, are you going to catch hell for it? Like stupid stuff. Like when you go to a bachelorette party, you stop at crazy sex stores and you pick up funny things for bachelorette parties, right? So I have done that. There's a couple here in Tampa that I have been to and I feel comfortable going to. They're not seedy.
You're right.
We all know the side of the highway ones are seedy. But these are like some nicer ones that you can go in and like look around and, get stuff for bachelorette parties or your own thing. And so I got like this little lingerie thing and I brought it home and he's like, where did you get that? I'm like, I went to a store. And he's like, why would you go to a sex store without me? Who did you go there with? Like, and then it went totally tanked from there. Like, I thought I was doing something like sexual for our relationship. Oh, I was the worst person on the planet because I walked into a sex store and got like this little tiny piece of lingerie for him. And I was the devil at that point. Doesn't it blow your mind to like think back on some of that now?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
I always say it's like I watched, like the memory that is in my mind of what I went through is almost like it's a memory from a movie that I watched, because like my person now wouldn't have lasted that long in a relationship. Like that. I wouldn't have. But if I had not gone through that today, I may go through a relationship like that because I don't know that I would have been aware of what was happening, because I certainly wasn't aware when I was in it.
Yeah.
And
let me ask you this question, because this is something that I have thought about a lot. Because I think you and I are very, very similar on a lot of this stuff, like our mindset and stuff. Prior to my abusive relationship, I had been married. That failed. We went through divorce. I met one guy that told me that I was doing bodybuilding for a couple years. And he got so jealous that he told me he hopes I burn my skin with the curling iron. And I was like,
What?
F you, buddy. I'm done with you. And I was done, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the first bad comment, I was done. And he was super charming and definitely a manipulator. And then I meet this guy. We have so much in common. We date for like a month. I'm head over heels for this guy, like head over heels. But we didn't have the monogamy exclusive conversation. And I found out he went on some dates and I was just heartbroken. And he's like, I'm not ready for a relationship, but we should have had that before I got my like hopes up, right? And so I was still suffering from that because I really, really liked that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met my abuser. So our cycles of energy and our psyche and our self-worth and self-belief, I don't think it's necessarily self-confidence because I was confident in myself. But my self-worth was low. My self-esteem was low at that time because of a guy that I really thought we connected. Um, and then that ended, and then I meet this crazy gorilla. Um, so you leading into your abuser situation, did you have any scenarios that led you to accept that behavior in the beginning where you wouldn't have prior?
Well, it's so funny that you say that because I remember in college, one year there were 4 women that lived together and we had one male roommate. And I was really good friends with him. And I remember talking to him. I'm like, I don't know. I like everybody's going on dates and stuff, and I don't get dates. And he said, your standards are too high. You need to lower your standards. And I remember thinking, I will never lower my standards. And going forward in different relationships, I I had one guy tell me, you're the kind of girl I should marry. And I was so flattered. And then he went on to say, because you're not beautiful, you're cute. You wouldn't be bad to wake up to, but you're not beautiful enough to where another man is going to take you away from me. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. But I mean, that
It still hit.
definitely
It hit.
it hit. And then I had another relationship where the guy told me, I need to marry you because when we get divorced, you will have to pay me alimony. And I mean, I was like, okay,
Hell is
you're out.
wonderful. Yeah.
And I wasn't like, oh, okay, well, I guess that would be okay. It wasn't like my self-worth was trash and I
Yeah.
thought that was okay. I knew those scenarios were not okay, but they were still digs
Yeah.
at me. And then it was like, it's same thing. This guy comes into my life and I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. Everything I like, he likes. We have the exact same taste in music, same taste in, what we like to do. It was crazy. And I was like, this must be what I was waiting for. This is why I was dating all those crappy guys, because this guy was coming along.
Yeah. That feeling, the white knight, right? The
Yes.
guy riding in on the white horse.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a podcast. The lady's name is Mariah. I've spoken to her on the phone before, but I went and listened to her podcast, and um, she said something so profound and it has stuck with me for a long time. For at least a couple years now is when I heard it. But she states this in such a way of just when you think you found the person to save you, or just when you think you're being saved, you're actually you're getting prepared to be cooked.
Ooh.
And I sat in that for a while, and then I cried about it for a while. Because if we think back to the abusive relationship, where has this person been all my life? I've been waiting for this. This is amazing. This is magical. This is, how come I didn't come across you before? I've been waiting for you for so long. Like all of those thoughts is like the turkey getting fattened up for Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
And I cried about it again and again and again. Like, it still brings emotions out in me. Like, we are not built that way. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that someone is so identical to us is a danger sign.
Yeah.
That no one can keep up with that. We are unique, whether it be a different genre of music, a different style of organization, of dogs we like. I mean, none of us should be identical. We can
Mm-hmm.
have similar things and reactions to things, but if someone is so similar, someone's faking it.
Right. Compatible? Yes.
Compatible.
Identical? No.
No, no,
Right.
no, no. Like, and if it is identical and you're like, but, all the buts come out, start documenting.
Mm-hmm.
If they're agreeing and doing things with you because it's the same thing you like, they're going to start using it against you somehow. It's going to
Oh,
be a weapon
yes.
of, well, you said you like to make sure to please me, and that pleases you. You said you like to go to the gym in the morning and you like to give me a blowjob before we go to the gym in the morning. You said, and they use it against you in like all kinds of crazy ways and even twisting your words. And you're like, did I say that? I don't think I
Mm-hmm.
said it that way. I didn't mean it that way if I said it that way. Um, and you don't even realize what's coming next. Like the cook chop the head off the turkey and throw it in the oven. Like, you don't realize that that is right in front of you.
Well, right. And then even if they're not identifying like we're exactly the same, if you share vulnerabilities, those will come back to be used against you. And it won't be at first. So if you say, "Oh, I don't feel pretty." For me, like this guy said he wanted to marry me because I'm not pretty, I'm not pretty enough to be a threat of leaving him. And then, the response is, "Oh my God, you're beautiful. What the heck? He's crazy, whatever. I think you're the most beautiful thing I've ever met, whatever." But then later, when it comes to that whole devaluing phase, it's, well, I mean, she's hot. You're not. And then there's the whole comparison of all these things that you shared that once were, um, they build you up. They build up your self-esteem just to rip that rug out
Yeah.
from under you.
Yeah. I got my failed marriage. I've got, all of that stuff. No wonder your marriage couldn't last. No wonder you're not having children. I mean, who wants to be married to you?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
all of, just terrible. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. It is. So let's talk about your nonprofit
Yeah.
more too.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to help people and I didn't know where to start. So just like with anything, there's never going to be a perfect time. So just start. You start where you can start. And so um for me, because my abuser was so big and so like double my size, like if he had put his hands on me more than he did, I now could get out of it. So I'm getting trained in self-defense. Um the natural avenue of how helpless I felt, I wanted to be able to give women the power of feeling like Wonder Woman, like leaving going, yeah, like I learned something, I feel empowered about it. Whether it's a story they heard, whether it is a move they learned, whether it is a piece of knowledge from law enforcement, so they're not scared to call 911, whether it's the mental aspect of putting your head in the right place to then put the safety plan together. I wanted it to be a place where you can get all of those things. So you didn't have to search on the internet if calling 911 and ordering pizza was a thing. You didn't have to or you didn't have to search on the internet to see if I call the cops, who gets arrested. You didn't have to, search on the internet if it's your husband or your boyfriend is at rape. Like, having these open discussions with people and getting their answers heard or getting their questions heard and answers given, it just brings power, right? This for sure is knowledge is power. But then you have to turn it into action, and not everyone is ready for that action. But I think like what I did is I tried to think what the next 6 months would look like. That's too scary. Focus on leaving and what the next 48 hours looks like. Right? Like shorten that time frame, make it in a more of a bite-sized piece of what do I need to gather? Who do I need to tell? Even if I call you and I say, Ingrid, and it should only just be one person, a trusted person, not one of their friends or family members. Ingrid, if I ever say the word pineapple and it's out of context and really weird, that means I need you to come pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
If I say the word rutabaga, some like random thing that I would never say, if I say that word, I need you to call 911 and give them my address. So like having a trusted person give a keyword or keywords where an action can take place in case it's needed, right? Because when you're preparing to leave, danger escalates dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Mine got in my face. He punched my chest. He spit in my face. Like all of those very demeaning, like I would not even spit on my worst enemy's face. It's disgusting. Like you're lower than dirt if you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure that that person understands what is happening and what help you need.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that part of when you're leaving, your danger really escalates. And you'll even notice that. You'll know that because as you start to recognize more that you're being abused, you do start to get a little bit of your empowerment. It's almost like you hit the bottom and there's nowhere to go but up. But your abuser also recognizes it. You may not even be like say anything different.
It's your shift to energy.
But yes, your shift of energy. So that abuse is going to come more frequently. It's going to be more horrific. The good times are going to get shorter and shorter. But then once they start to realize that they are actually losing control, it's all systems go. They will stop at nothing to keep that power over you. So it is so incredibly dangerous. And if you can avoid telling them that you're leaving, do things like sneaking out slowly over time, that's what you have to do to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
And so how do people get in touch with you? How do they find your book? How do they find your nonprofit?
So the easiest way, I mean, you can go on to Amazon, but on my website, tiffinynewton.com, I have all the links to like Books A Million, Walmart, Amazon. Like if you click on that logo, it takes you to there. So wherever you buy, some people don't want to use Amazon. Some people only use, some people are just brand specific. So you can click on that and it takes you to the order page. My nonprofit is also listed on there because the proceeds from the book do go to the nonprofit. And I have a safety plan that I have put together. I actually spent a lot of time on it where it is 24 red flags to keep out for, to keep an eye on, 3 financial moves you can make to keep yourself financially safe. It's like 3 or 4 pages to print out and answer questions like what we were talking about. What's the line in the sand? If they say this, what can you respond to hold your power? So you can actually write your own mental plan with it. And then have a private call. I have a 10-minute video on there, just, telling them a little bit about my story too. So I have that on there. It's called The Empowered Exit. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways to get in touch with me. And igniteher.org is the nonprofit.
Okay. And then do you think that we missed anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And one of the obstacles, animals, children, right?
Yes.
That's one of the things on my nonprofit site for resources is I made sure to list the local shelters that have on-site or off-site pet facilities. Because I don't have any kids, but I have dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be I don't have dogs that are banned from hotels, but if someone has like a pit bull or a shepherd or a Doberman, they may not be allowed to be in a hotel. So you do have to take an extra step of planning. And what can you get together? Like in my stuff for the storage unit, I had dog food, their medication. Like I didn't remove any of that stuff from the cabinets. I already had it off to the side. So if he were to look into anything, he wouldn't see anything missing.
And pets is such a big thing. And I know it's easy for somebody who has not been in a domestic violence situation to think, just leave the dog and go. But that has literally kept somebody in that situation. I mean, things you mentioned at the beginning, important items. And I mean, you didn't have a choice. He was donating them, but people have stayed because if I leave, this table that's been in my family for generations will get destroyed. I know he or she's going to destroy that. So there are things like that that are extremely important to victims, and it should never be downplayed as something that's not important or not something that you can just walk away and leave behind. So in closing, I believe every story, every voice carries some sort of a strength. And is there anything specific that you would want to leave with listeners as the strength of the message to take home today?
Probably the biggest thing is you are loved. No matter who you are or your background, you are loved just as God put you on this planet. And never, ever think that you're less, because you're not. God put you on this earth as perfect. So believe in yourself. And wherever you are, if you're in the situation, reach out for help. Get help to get out so you can live the life that you were supposed to live. You are not ever supposed to be in a position where you feel less than who you really are.
Thank you, Tiffiny. That was great. I appreciate your time coming on. I loved our conversation. I'm sure we're going to have more conversations after this. Okay, so thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you again, Tiffiny, for joining me today, and thank you, warriors, for listening. I've included the links Tiffiny was referring to, as well as her 1 in 3 profile, in the show notes. I will be back next week with our first episode into the Domestic Violence Awareness Month series. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, IN, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1 in 3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 3 podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1 in 3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.